When my boys were 5, a neighbor's son knocked on my door. Their family station wagon was idling outside, roof rack piled with camping gear. They'd forgotten to arrange for a pet sitter, and I, stay-at-home twin mom, was the only one clueless enough to answer the doorbell. The boy mumbled about dry and wet cat food, tossed the key at me, and ran for the car where his father gunned it out of the neighborhood. I placed the key on the counter, went back to unloading groceries, texting the babysitter, and scraping dried applesauce off the TV. 3 days later, I came across the key and choked on my cranberry juice. I left my amazed family at the breakfast table and flew down the sidewalk like a crazed witch, bathrobe flapping behind me. My family does not have pets, despite the boys' repeated begging for everything from a sheepdog to a trout. This is partially due to my allergies and my lack of desire for the responsibility, but mostly due to childhood pet traumas. There was the lizard, who escaped and was later found fossilized, boiled behind the steam radiator. The feral cat, who bit anyone who attempted to pet her and spent most of her days under the stove. And the gerbil mother, who rejected her tiny pink screaming babies, which had to be disposed of by our parents. You don't want to know. I fumbled with the door, anticipating a feline scolding. Instead, silence. Clueless as to the cat's moniker, I went through the rooms calling, "Here, kitty, 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 kitty," and saying silent prayers that the creature wasn't lying dead behind the dryer. I tore through the house and eventually found him up against the wall under the guest room bed, lying on his back, paws splayed out, tongue lolling, hyperventilating like he'd just completed a half marathon. I filled his bowl with fresh water and set it alongside the bed. No response. I pushed it closer. Nothing. Finally, I reached under and towed him out by a leg. The mop-like fur of his body scooping dust bunnies from under the bed as he came. I propped his head up to the water bowl, cursing the responsibility and swearing this was reason number 362 why my family would never have pets. I checked on him 17 times until his family returned, whereupon I confessed to the 3-day lapse. In case the cat didn't poop for a month, I felt they needed to know about this brief lack of moisture. I was not asked to pet sit for that again. Several years later, another neighbor approached me and asked if my 9-year-old boys would like to be paid to care for their cat during a 3-day weekend. My boys in charge? Only 3 days? What could possibly go wrong? Then it occurred to me, this will so work in my favor. They'll flunk the responsibility test and never beg me for a dog again. We happily took her key, and the boys made plans to go with Rico, the sweet kitty, after school that very day. 48 hours later, I woke up at 3:30 a.m. to my husband's whistle snore and the realization no one has fed the freaking cat. Once again, I leapt into action, wrestling into my down coat and hoping it covered most of my pajamas. It was -7 degrees with 80-mile-an-hour winds, so I threw on the black knit cap that had not retained its original shape after washing, and grabbed a day-glow yellow flashlight the size of a car battery for good measure. I scurried up the icy sidewalk in my slippers, mildly worried for my safety. Then I caught a glimpse of my reflection via streetlight in the neighbor's storm door, and figured the odds were much better that someone was going to call the police on me. Fortunately, Rico had spied me coming and launched himself at my ankles as I came through the door. I was so relieved he wasn't dead or licking the condensation off the inside of the basement windows that I picked him up and rubbed his head. Several bowls of food later, we sat down on the couch, and then my eyes started to itch and my throat tightened up. Ditching Rico, I sneezed my way back home, the idea of returning to sleep a hopeless dream, and remembering reason number 547 why we don't have pets of our own, my allergies. At breakfast that day, I casually informed the boys that I had gone over to feed Rico in the middle of the night. After the sound of cereal spoons clattering to the table and milk drooling out of mouths had ended, Aiden looked at me sadly. "We're never going to have a pet of our own, Mommy, are we?" he asked. No, I said. Not unless the creature's name begins with Chia.